Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our next slot. But before I'm going to announce you, I'm also going to announce the marble machine, the MMX weighing, the official weighing is happening at 1900. So in 1 hour, it's going to happen in Hall 1. But you'll also be able to see it here on the screen because we are going to stream it from over there to here. So in case there is too many people there, just walk back here. You will see it here. The open jam session, therefore, will be delayed by 15 minutes after that. And for now, we have... I forgot your name.
Ewout.
Ewout. Yes. Coming in with his talk about Overtones. Sure. Have fun. Let's go. One round of applause, please. We welcome every guest the same way. Let's go.
Hello everyone. Can you hear me clearly? Yes. All right. My name is Ewout. I'm from the Netherlands, and I'm going to give you a talk about overtones and the natural origin of both melody and harmony. So, how many of you already heard about overtones? Can I see some hands? All right. How many of you can explain me exactly how melody and harmony came to exist in this world that we live in? Can I see some hands? Okay, so I'm not here without a reason. That's really nice. I'm happy to see. I will give you a small presentation today, first of how I got into overtones, why I give this talk to you today, because I think it's really fascinating. I'm going to explain to you briefly what overtones are, just the physical workings of them. Then I will go deeper into harmony and how it was created, how it came to be, just simply. We'll do the same with melody. Then I will go from there, take that as a starting point, because I will tell you that's the starting point. And I will explain to you a little bit how Western music developed throughout the years. And up till the point where we are now. So I will go up to the chromatic system that we use today with the 12 notes. And then I will look into the future as far as I'm able to, and just see what are the possibilities we have, and maybe how we can use overtones to explore new paths that we didn't explore for the last few hundred years at least. So first I will tell you how it started. So a few years ago I was at a festival and I heard a strange sound coming from a tent, and I thought this is some kind of computer sound. And then I walked in and someone was overtone singing, and it was the first time I heard it, and I thought, this is not possible. I didn't believe it was possible, and I couldn't understand it, so I dived deep into it, and that's why I'm here right now. And I will show you a little clip of a group called Wintergatan. They're from the south of Russia, and they are masters in the style of Sigit, which is an overtone singing style. And this guy is going to sing 2 notes at the same time, if we have sounds. So as you might have been able to hear, there was a bass note that was continuous, and then there was these other notes happening simultaneously. And to me, it blew my mind. In my system of thinking, that was not a possibility, but it was. So I wanted to know how it worked. So then we come to the questions, what are overtones? And it starts all with sound. Sound is vibration. Literally, it's like an air column that's just moving, and all the sound that we hear, it's created by a physical vibration. It can happen in multiple ways. One of the ways that's most visually comprehensible is a string. When you see a string, it goes up and down, and every time it goes up and down, it creates vibration, and the faster it goes, the higher the sound is. And if you imagine a string, in Western theory, we say, okay, we play the A string on a guitar, for example. It's an A2. It vibrates 110 times per second, up and down. And we think, okay, so that's the one note it produces. But actually, there's not only this movement going on, not only does the string vibrate up and down on its entire length, but it also has like a point in the middle, and from there it also vibrates like this. So there's like already two vibrations going on. And the same happens if you divide it by 3. So there's actually already 3 vibrations going on, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's many, many, many vibrations going on at the same time if you play a single note. So to say that one string produces one note is actually kind of incorrect, because one string produces at least 16 distinguishable notes at the same time. And that is actually the basis of harmony. So it's moving in several ways, and the overtones, they are the tones that are just literal multiplications of the root note, of the lowest note that you produce when something is vibrating. And I can show this to you very easily. And so here you see a little diagram of how you can visualize it. So in the top you see the entire length of the string, and then you see the string is also vibrating 2 times as fast, 3 times as fast, 4 times as fast, etc. Now I have a little clip for you, and this is just a recording of an accordion-like instrument, and it's just playing one note. It's playing the A, the 110 hertz. And this is what I'm going to show you. It's going to be a spectrogram, so you can see exactly the different frequencies that are present within this sound file. And I will just play it for you, and then I will look deeper into what we are seeing. So the only thing that was just one note. And when we look up close, we see the different frequencies. So you have the bass frequency, so like the lowest note, as you could say, is 110 hertz. Then the other frequency that shows up in the spectrogram is 220. It's 2 times as fast, 2 times as high, then 330, 440, etc. And you have this entire range of notes that are present within this single note. And you can do this with any instrument, with any sound. You can analyze a guitar in the same way. You can analyze your own voice, and you will see the same pattern in anything, in any stable frequency that you analyze. And what we end up with is what we call the harmonic series. And here is a different visualization of the harmonic series. It's exactly the same pattern that we just saw, but now you can actually see the names of the intervals. So in music, there's intervals. The octave, it's exactly 2 times as high as the note below it. And if you look up close, you can already see that there's some kind of pattern that we can already recognize if some of us are familiar with Western music. So the very first interval that appears in harmonic series is the octave. Then when the second one that appears is the fifth, the perfect fifth. Then there's another octave. Then there's what we call the major third. And this is already present within every single note that you hear. So even before you change anything, this is already there. And it goes up to another fifth, natural seventh, another octave, and then a few notes that don't have names in our language because we don't know them so well, which I will come back to later on. And I will just show you a little clip of a guy playing these notes one after each other, and you will already see that this is the basics of what we have as harmony today. When you hear music, you hear major chords, you basically just hear these notes.
I'm going to play harmonics 2, 3, 4, and 5. he's clever. But that's just the 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th notes of the harmonic series.
So you can see that what we call a major chord and what we call a dominant 7th chord, these chords that we use every day, we didn't even invent them. They just existed already, and we're just copying what has already existed in nature. So that was all the parts I was going to talk about harmony for today. Now I want to talk about melody, because melody actually came to be in a similar way. So there is this natural order that we saw, this natural order that's already present, and it exists within each note, but it also exists in a melodic way, and it already existed before humans existed, probably. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of a hypothesis how I think that the first melodies were probably being able to be heard in this world that we live in. And what I imagine is that maybe a few million years ago, I think bamboo existed before humans did. I'm not sure, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think bamboo existed already. And one very likely event is that at some point in time, 1 million years ago, a bamboo broke, and there was only just like a shaft of bamboo and a top. And if you blow into a beer bottle, everybody has done this, I think, you hear a sound. There's a sound created. So if you blow across a tube, some part of the wind goes inside, some part of the wind goes outside, and there's an oscillation going on and a standing wave that's being created within the tube. So then you have your first standing wave, but then if you blow twice as hard into the same tube, you get a frequency that is twice as high. And if you blow 3 times, or if the wind 4,005 million years ago blew in this tube 3 times as hard, you get a 5th. And I'm pretty sure this is one of the ways that the very first instruments were created. So I guess it's all started maybe with a piece of bamboo, and probably some human picked it up, tried the same thing, and you can replicate the same thing really easily. So I get just a piece of bamboo right here, and if I blow into it, I'm not sure if it's going to be too loud. I will maybe bend it a little bit. Sorry if this will hurt your ears. So if I'm just blowing it, so now I'm blowing just normal, and then when I blow twice as fast, it goes twice as high. And as you can see, I'm not using any buttons. This is just natural. And there are few flutes that work in this way, and they don't have any buttons at all. I'm going to show you a little clip of Clément. He's a Belgian guy who makes really beautiful flutes. All overtone flutes, really interesting sounds. Check him out if you like it. And this is just one of the examples of one of the instruments that were probably the very first instruments that ever existed. So as you can see, humans really like to play with stuff. So stuff already existed, and then we think, oh, we can do something else, and let's try something else. And I think this is one of the first examples, but then obviously humans get bored pretty quickly. So instead of just only using these notes, we wanted more notes. And that's how we come now to the subject of the development of Western music. So we see that there was already a melodic scale that we could use, but then I guess we got bored, or maybe we wanted something else, so we decided we wanted to have some kind of scale, some kind of notes that are really nice in a row, and then you can sing it in any key. So we started to play around with what already was there. So we started with the harmonic series. And then we thought, there's these intervals in between. So maybe if we can place these intervals in a certain order, we can maybe create different melodies that we didn't hear before. And what we use very often in Western music is what we call the diatonic scale or the major scale. It has 7 notes. We are really used to this. Everybody knows this as the do, re, mi, fa, sol. Oh, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's just, everybody knows that. And the way we figure this out is we just we just took the intervals that were already present within the harmonic series. And that is really clearly shown in the second row. So there's the title just. It's the just intonation. So we start with the root note. We don't have to do anything there. Then the re, so the second, the major second, we just derived it by looking at the interval between the 9th note of the harmonic series and the 8th. So the difference between the 8th and the 9th is exactly what we used as the major second. So that interval was already present within the harmonic series. We just copied it. Then the 3rd, it's already there between the 4th and the 5th. And then the 4th interval is just the difference between the octave and the 5th, so the 4th and the 3rd note, and etc., etc. So the major 6th, it's the difference between the interval between the major 3rd, so the grootste terts, and the perfect 5th, the quinth. That difference becomes, that interval is what we call now a major 6th, and then the major 7th, it's the 15th note up till the 16th note. That interval is just copied. And then we had this skill, and we could create melodies that were really recognizable, and in church they were often used to memorize the different psalms or the different prayers. And so in the church times, we kind of stuck to that. And this tuning is different than what we use today. And I'm going to show you a video of a guy he created. His name is Jim Snow. He created an instrument that is justly tuned. So it's tuned according to this system that you see in the middle. So all the intervals are directly derived from the harmonic series. And then if we listen to this, I want you to just pay attention if it sounds different than what you're used to. I think it does. So this is the G keyboard made by Jim Snow. And he's just going to play a few very common chord progressions, and also the Canon in D by Pachelbel, which was actually written in the system that I just explained. So it was before the system that we have now. And this is the original way that it was thought of. So these are just the chords. So the very first time that I heard this, I thought, I think his piano is out of tune. This instrument, I think it's out of tune because my ears are so adapted to the system that we have today that this sounds wrong. But the system that we have today, it's a cheat. If you look at so we have seen how harmony works. We have seen that notes relate to each other in a very mathematical way. But the problem with this system of diatonic tuning, the just system, is that it's really difficult to transpose. And it's really difficult to create instruments because in a way you have to, every note relates very specifically to another note. But then if you want to play the same melody in a different key, you need a completely different instrument that has a different root note. And because all these relations are so particular and so specific. So what we did is we thought, okay, that's too difficult. That's really too difficult. We don't want a different instrument for every song that we play. We want one instrument, and we want to play all the melodies with that one instrument. So instead of holding on to the basic principles, like the exact principles of harmony, we decided to just cut the entire octave into 12 equal parts. And in this way, everything sounds almost the same, but not entirely. So you can see already some differences. So the major second, it's the 200 cents. It's written in cents. It's a subdivision of semitones. Then it's 4 times, if it's 4 cents, the justly tuned note is 4 cents higher. So that's barely noticeable. But then the major third, you see that in the equal tempered system, it's 400 cents. And then in the justly tuned system, it's 386 cents. So that's already the well-tempered version is 14 cents sharp of its naturally tuned counterpart. So that's already a big difference. And it goes on a little bit like this. And then there's also the other notes that we saw in the beginning that we just don't know them. And we think they sound wrong because we don't know them. When you don't know something, you think something sounds wrong, but that doesn't mean it has to be wrong. So I think that's something interesting to discover. So this is where we are now. This is the development up to this moment. We have created this system of 12 tones, and as you can see, it's not in line with the mathematical order of sound waves, in fact. And so that's where we are, and that's fine. Like I really love Western music. I really love jazz. You can do a lot of things. It's really smart, this system, but there's also a lot of things that you cannot do with this system. And that's the part where I'm quite interested in. It's like, what is possible if you let go of the chromatic equal tempered system and discover further? So I think there's 3 main things that are really interesting when you look into overtones. I think one of the things that can be really interesting is, I'm just going to show you a little clip of Jacob Collier. He's going to make a big claim about just tuning, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So first, here's Jacob Collier, who's going to analyze a song of his. It's called Moon River. He made a rearrangement of it, and he's just breaking it down. So this is part of a video where he breaks down what he did in that song.
It's worth mentioning that this chord here, which, let me see if I can get this right. This is a G half sharp major chord. The third of a G half sharp major chord on the piano. Let me go to this. We're used to this being here, but in physics, in like real life, it's. It's that different. Can you believe that? The piano is alive. Everything about the piano is alive. It's a compromise. All the semitones are the same size. This is not the case in physics. This note here is 14 cents sharp of its justly tuned self. So, in this arrangement, I always strive to be justly in tune, because just intonation is so much bigger and so much more resonant and actually inspires more endorphins in the body. But for me, like singing triads especially, it's just, there's something about justly tuned triads that I cannot get over. And so this is really in tune. It's not this. It's not that. That's just naff.
So the interesting part, I really like this video, but the interesting part for me, what he says there is that the justly tuned major third, it is capable of producing more endorphins in the body. I don't think it was research, but I think it's quite plausible if you just, for me at least, if I think about it, if I just theoretically think about it, it sounds quite plausible that something that is actually harmonious, I think it's probably capable of calming me down more than something that is dissonant. If I play 2 notes on the guitar and they sound dissonant, usually I get a kind of, I don't feel so well. But then if something is really, if I hear a beautiful interval, just like a perfect fifth, it's like, shit's all right. Like I'm really calm. So that is something that I think is worth exploring. Is it possible that you become more relaxed or more happy just by hearing intervals that are actually in tune? I think that is something worth exploring at least. And maybe it is quantifiable. I'm not a scientist, but if someone would investigate, I would be extremely interested in what the results would be. So that's one thing that is interesting, I think. And then there's another thing that I think is really interesting, and that is other traditions. So I've talked about the development of Western music right now. But Western music is not the only music. There's also Arabic music and Indian music, and all over the world there's different systems, completely different systems in a way. And we don't, or at least I have never been taught how these systems work, and I don't think it's widely taught in much music schools in the West, at least. So the Indian system, they use completely different, or at least they use some different intervals than we do. And whenever a Western person tries to analyze another music, he does it from, most musicologists do it from their own perspective. So they take their chromatic view and they just look at a different system and they're like, oh yeah, this one is 133 cents lower than our fifth. But I think that's not the way to go. I don't think it helps us if we keep continuing from our own perspective. I think it would really help if we want to understand each other. I think it would really help to start a kind of framework from the things that we have in common. And what we all have in common, every single system in the entire world is based on the same thing, and it's based on the harmonic series, because that is the origin of melody and harmony. So if we look from there and start to understand each other from there, I think that would actually unite us much more, and we would be much we could understand each other more easy, I think. So I think that's another thing that could be really worthwhile investigating, just how can we analyze every tradition from the same common ground and then maybe have some kind of language so we can talk to each other about it. I think that's also something that could be worth investigating. And then the third thing that I also think is quite interesting is, so in this harmonic series, there's notes that don't have a name in our musical language. The first ones they do up to a certain point. So we know the root note, we know the octave, we know the perfect fifth. That's all fine. And we know the major third, even though it's tuned differently. We kind of know the natural seventh. But then when you go up further, you see, well, the major second we know, that's the ninth note. But the 11th note, for example, it's somewhere in between the fourth and the fifth. And it sounds like a Lydian note. I cannot really produce it at this moment, but it's not a fourth, it's not a fifth, it's not a tritone. It's a note that we don't know yet, but it is within natural melody and it is within natural harmony. So I think it's quite interesting to also discover and play with these notes, because they are there. We can maybe make some new stuff with it. And the same goes for melody. And so I'm personally really interested in playing a lot with these notes that we don't know so well and the harmonies that come out of it. And just as a finishing touch, right now I will show you a video of a singer, or polyphonic singer, that goes by the name of Anna Maria Hefele, and she's from Germany, and she sings multiple notes at the same time, and she makes really interesting compositions. So I will just finish this presentation with a video of her where she does something that I had never heard before. She plays it in a beautiful church with a big installation that kind of vibrates with her sound, and I hope you like it. All right. Well, thank you all very much for being here today. My name is Ewout. You can follow me on Facebook and YouTube. I make a little bit of music as well as a singer-songwriter, and I'm working on a project where I will incorporate everything that I talked about today and try to make different music that I've never heard before. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, but if it's going to be nice, then you can find out later. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much. I would say that produced so many endorphins that I would say I love you for giving that talk here. So I have so many questions, so I try to just maybe give one here and we talk later. So how could I tune my piano basically or an instrument to those frequencies? Is there any like rule, or I mean I can have an app and it tells me exactly the frequency. Have you experimented with that? Does that work for a guitar? I mean, it's a fretboard fixed, but...
So for a piano, it's really, really difficult. You will not be able to use the piano in the same way.
Yeah. So it has a fixed scale, then I understand, but I would be fine for me.
Yeah. So I'm not much of a mathematician nor a physicist, but I know there's people who have changed around the frets on their fretboard, for example. I think so. The difficulty with the instruments we have today is that they are able to play the same exact melodies in 12 different scales. And so if you want to work according to this system, you have to limit yourself in a way. You will probably be able to only play maybe 3 scales on the same instrument. If you and so I'm also still working on that right now myself. So I'm kind of in the process of thinking like how can I actually make instruments that are in line with this system. And for me, it's also still a work in progress. But there's already people who have been working on it a little bit.
Would like to join that journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, you asked if there was any specific rule for that, and I happen to know the maths behind it. There actually is. You can check in on the Google. There actually is. If I remember correctly, it's a Wikipedia page. It has this chart. You have the just intonation, equal temperament, and the differences in sense to every interval. I don't remember them all, but the major third, that's -14 compared to equal temperament. And the most out of tune is minor 7th, I think, with -31 cents. But if you have acoustic piano, you can just tune yourself, but otherwise you would need some kind of software to change the intervals. So just a normal digital piano like here, that wouldn't be possible, I think. But yeah, there's some Wikipedia page, if I remember correctly. It's some like just intonation versus equal temperament, or just intonation, basically, yeah. And I actually have another question. What's your favorite overtone?
My favorite overtone?
Yes, because it's an infinite series, but of course, I'm guessing you have one favorite.
Well, at the moment, I like them all. But
Same.
I think at the moment, my favorite overtone. I'll go back to it. I think it's the one. It's number 11, I think.
Oh, 11. That's basically for me. I have this short story. I was listening to my refrigerator in my previous apartment, and the 11th came. It standed out. I was like, "What's that sound?" But it sounded so natural. Usually, when you play Lydian on equal temperament, it's so harsh, you know. But it's a natural 11. It was so kind and warm sound. Yeah. It's actually, when I listened to it enough, it became more natural, like the normal major scale with the normal 4th, you know.
Yeah.
It's almost more natural if you listen to the Overtones series and it stands out. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and also I think one of the moments that I started to get really interested in this stuff is I was studying music therapy, and then at some point we were looking at how the different modes affect your mood. and there was some kind of theory about it. So we listened to I don't know if people are familiar with modes in music, but you have the major scale, and then if you just scooch up like one note, you get a different scale, and then we have also a minor scale, and you also have this thing called the Lydian scale. And in this course that I was taking, they said that the Lydian scale actually kind of makes you happier than the major scale. And I was like, what? Yeah. Happier than major?
yeah, it's brighter, one step brighter.
And the Lydian also uses that, or something that resembles very closely to that fourth or the 11th harmonic.
And if you want to get close to the Overtone series with a normal keyboard or just like equal temperament, you can sharpen your fourth and flatten your seventh, so you get this Lydian dominant. So sharp 4 and flat 7.
Yeah.
You can experiment with the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
If you have an acoustic piano, I'm pretty sure anybody who's trained in tuning a piano can tune to just intonation. They do it with the beats between the different notes, so they are. Yeah, it's a whole nother concept. But if you play two dissonant notes together, then they start interacting and canceling each other out on a regular basis. So 3 times a second or 4 times a second, and piano tuners use that to determine how to tune the piano. And I'm pretty sure they can tune to just intonation using this, but you will have to get someone professional for that. And with digital pianos or MIDI pianos, you can hook them up to a digital audio workstation, and there are plugins that can change the tuning of your notes. So that would be, I think that would be the easiest version. Or you get, for an acoustic piano, you get a professional tuner, and they can most definitely do it.
Yeah, and if you are interested in the technical way of doing that, actually Jacob Collier uses this method really often. So he just plays a note, and then he just cranks it up by a few cents with some kind of software. I don't know which he uses, but he very often he records MIDI, and then he actually adjusts it to the just intonation system. Any other questions?
Yeah, I love the talk. It's a very interesting subject, I think, the overtones, and I also used some in my project at school with physics, and we studied if you can recognize different musical instruments with the overtones. And I was wondering, what do you think of the digital future of overtones? And I mean, you have the sine waves that you can stack up, so you can make all different kinds of sounds. I was wondering what you thought of that.
Yeah, so personally, I've not thought a lot about the digital future, personally, because I really love to go outside and breathe fresh air. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not really deeply invested, but I'm absolutely sure there's so many possibilities. And also with sample producing, like there's so many people creating sounds right now, and you can really use these principles to create a really rich sound. I'm sure with just stacking up many sound waves in certain ways. But again, that's not my my passion at the moment. Maybe it will come. Yeah. Another question over there.
Yeah, so one comment to this analog tuning. Maybe it's working, I'm not so sure, because you have, of course, also problems with the string tensions sometimes. But anyways, I have another question to you, which is, of course, the temperate tuning we have right now is sort of artificial, but as I remember, I'm not a music theoretical person, but as I remember, there were fights about which kind of temperate tuning should be used. I think Bach himself was interfering with this, so my question to you would be like, would you be interested to find artificial systems which sort of maybe work better for therapy or whatever reasons?
Yeah, so how I see it is all this stuff we do with skills and systems, it's just a way of playing. So I think I'm always interested in other ways. And I didn't hear earlier about different ways of well-tempered system. I thought there was just one, but maybe there is more. But I also did hear it was Bach who had a role in the system that we use today. But obviously, I'm very much interested in different systems as well, because it's just a different game that you can play, which has different results. And for me, that's just fascinating and fun to roam around in. Yeah, I'm sure there's different applications for. And also this system, I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying that it has certain capacities and certain limitations. And the capacities are also amazing. So I wouldn't just cast this away and say, oh, it's bad, it's a lie. It's not really. It's just one way of playing with it, and that can be really fun as well. So yeah. Any more questions? One more.
I can add to that. I just recently watched a video of Adam Neely. I don't know if anybody knows him.
Which one?
Adam Neely. That's a jazz bass player from New York, and he makes music educational content on YouTube.
Yeah.
And he summarized the latest findings about Bach and the well-tempered piano or clavier. And the latest opinion in music science is at the moment that Bach didn't play in 12-tone equal temperament as we did today. He didn't. That didn't exist in his time. Rather, he invented his own tuning and wanted to showcase. So he wrote pieces in every key, major and minor, 24 pieces in 24 keys. And he didn't want them to sound the same. Rather, he wanted to show the differences in his tuning system between the keys. And the scientists are pretty sure, the historians, scientists, I don't know, are pretty sure that he invented his own system because he tuned the instruments on which he played. He tuned them himself always, and it took him about 15 minutes to tune a whole instrument at the end. And because he was so meticulous about tuning his own instruments, they think he invented his own system to tune them, and so it wasn't neither just intonation nor well-temperament, in which there were indeed a couple well-temperament systems. He just used his own.
And do they know what he used, or is that still a mystery?
No, they in the original copy of the well-tempered clavier, he did a few squiggles, and it was a couple loops. I think it was seven loops. No, 11 or 12 loops, and they think that those loops are supposed to be the tuning, a way for him to remember the tuning, because his students who copied the original writings of the well-tempered clavier, they copied also the squiggles, so they seem to be important, but we have no way of finding out with what they mean.
Fascinating. Thank you. Any other questions? Now is the time, or later. You can also come up to me later. There's still time, so yeah.
Thanks. So maybe I can just add a bit like that topic about middle A and which frequency we have there. So you know, usually we have the middle A at 440 Hertz in our music today, and there's debates or other moods. So like classical orchestras, they go higher sometimes, and then other people like the 432 hertz. And I just took a time to tune my piano to middle A at 432 hertz and compared like 4 different songs. You find that on YouTube if you like, 440 hertz versus 432 on piano. And it was interesting. So it's not that simple in terms of, okay, this works better for everything. So my finding there was like, for some songs, I like this tuning better, and for other songs, I feel it fits better there, so I can feel it more resonant in my body with both tunings at different places. And so, I would like to combine these things. So, like with you, what are you suggesting with the overtones and that sort of scale, and then try to find a good root note frequency, so to speak, and see what comes out of that. So I like to experiment with that. So thank you, and yeah, that's just a thought adding. So not a question, but yeah, what's on my mind there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also kind of a discussion going on sometimes between people. There's like a whole group of people saying 432 is the best, and then there's like another like, what are you doing? 440 was fine.
Yes.
And I think it's not really about one or the other either. I think it's really nice that we have one standardized thing, because then every person everywhere in the world can play together very easily. I think that's beautiful. And at the same time, when I make music myself, sometimes I build instruments myself. I build a didgeridoo, for example, and then I just build it. I just build it with a piece of wood that I have. And then what comes out of there, it's a thing that vibrates at 64 hertz. So, and then you can see it's like, if you compare that to 440, I have to kind of like, if you compare to the middle A, I probably play like kind of like a C half sharp in 435 or something like. It's not, things are not really very precise when you just do things spontaneously, and that's the way that things were done for a long time, and that's also what sometimes works the best for myself, at least when I study music therapy, for example, and I study yoga and meditation as well. And then sometimes I use sound to calm myself. So I just sit, and then I feel kind of restless, and I think, I really want to feel more calm, and I just start to sing a random note. And whatever that note is, it's never really according to one or another system. It's just the note that I like to hear at that present moment. And then I think that's also interesting that you can basically just work around there also. But you cannot do that with tuned instruments that are always tuned in the same way. You have to, if you want to make music according to whatever system, then you need music instruments that are really flexible and with which you are able to create any interval. So that works way easier with instruments that don't have frets, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, just one comment. It's definitely refreshing to try different frequencies time and time, but I'd like to do a little warning, a comment, that hertz as a frequency unit is completely artificial. Right now it's currently based on a second, which is, if I remember correctly, about 9 billion frequencies, vibration of a cesium-137 atom. So if you go like 440 or 432, it's really completely artificial, but it's definitely worth experimenting. Everyone has their different resonant frequencies inside their body cavities, so it's definitely worth experimenting. But there's no, like we have just said here, there's no really better or worse frequencies out there, because the hertz is based on a second, which is completely artificial, made by humans. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Although I do have to say, one funny fact that I once heard is that if you add 4 plus 3 plus 2, you get 9. And then if you divide 432 by 2, someone help me out, what do you get? 216 or something? How much? 268. 16. Yeah, 216. So if you add 2 plus 1 plus 6, you also get 9. And if you divide that by 2 and you add all those numbers together, it's like a game people like to play. It's kind of fun, but I don't know what it's worth. Another question.
No, I just one comment for this. The older instruments were actually not at 440. They were actually lower. Just a remark.
What did you say?
The older instruments, like pianos, were tuned not to 440, but lower.
Lower.
Because the frame was not getting the strength. I think that's the main reason. Like the pianos, especially.
Check. Any more questions still? Then I wish you all a very pleasant day, and I thank you very much for being here. And then maybe we can chat after. So, have a nice day. And also,
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ewout. For people interested in hearing these musical notes together, in about 25 minutes we'll have an open jam session here where everyone can come in with their own instruments and play music together. Before that, in 10 minutes at 7 p.m. we will be weighing the Marble Machine X to determine how heavy it is over in Hall 1. Thank you everyone for coming.